The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. As I let me just cut right to it. As I've said before, one of the most powerful things that you could get out of Iowa is the narrative. The narrative is the thing, and the narrative is what moves and changes and shifts polling heading into New Hampshire and then South Carolina. New polling from Suffolk Boston Globe that was done yesterday came out that Sanders is down 1 point in New Hampshire from his previous high of 25%. Sanders is at 24%. Buttigieg is up 4 points. 4 points. That is 100% a bump from the victory lap that he was allowed to give, even though he did not win Iowa. Now, we do have reason to celebrate because it is, in fact, the case that Bernie Sanders looks like he won. We're still waiting the final results from Iowa, but because of all of the shenanigans, the fact that he is, I believe that he's tied in state delegate equivalence with Buttigieg, but has 6,000 more votes than Buttigieg. And so Bernie Sanders decided to claim the victory yesterday, which is only right. There's no way in hell that Mayor Pete should have been allowed to go around the country for 3 days saying that he was victorious when, in fact, he made that claim without any of the results being in. And that narrative has settled in, and people are starting to see I think what is a good parallel for the Iowa caucus, having the first round of caucusing and then a realignment where people make a decision. OK, my candidate isn't viable. Let me shift to another candidate. I think what's pretty analogous. It's pretty analogous to what happens between Iowa and New Hampshire, because now people have started to make that realignment. Now, I don't know about that 1 point that has now shifted from Bernie Sanders and gone to somewhere else, possibly to Elizabeth Warren, who's up 2 points. But Biden is down 1 point. Klobuchar is down, or she's flat. Gabbard is down 1 point. It is time for Tulsi Gabbard to get out and endorse Bernie Sanders. It is time for Andrew Yang, who is up a point, to get out and endorse Bernie Sanders. Tom Steyer, if you really like Bernie Sanders, get out and endorse Bernie Sanders before New Hampshire. So here are the numbers straight out. Sanders is at 24%, Buttigieg 23%, Warren at 13%, Biden at 11%, Klobuchar 6%, Gabbard 4%, Steyer 3%, Yang 3%. It's time. I don't expect, and people are calling for Warren to drop out, not at 13%, not in third place. She's not dropping out. Don't ask her to. It's a waste of time, and quite frankly, it's insulting. I think it would be extremely insulting to a Warren supporter for you to suggest that she gets out when she's in third. Nobody gets out when they're in third. Not in New Hampshire. Super Tuesday, probably, because then at that point, they would have come in third in all of those states. Fundraising will dry up. But the people who need to get out are the people who I've been warning for some time, particularly Tulsi Gabbard. We need those 4 points, even if only 2 of them come to Bernie Sanders and 2 goes to Elizabeth Warren or wherever they're going to go. But it's a combination of things that are really making this race unnecessarily tight. And the narrative can change, man. I don't know who these people are. I guess they're people who get their news from MSNBC or CNN, or people who aren't really paying attention to the policy differences. People who can swing from Bernie Sanders to Mayor Pete. Makes absolutely no sense in my world, but I realize that our world is not normal. Those of you who listen to my show, we are not the norm. We are the exception in that we consume progressive content and we have progressive policies, principles, and we stand on them. So it only makes sense to us that you ride with Bernie to the end. Or hell, I mean, even Elizabeth Warren, even though there's a story coming out yesterday about Elizabeth Warren losing some of her key African-American support. Staffers, not just support, but staffers in Nevada. I'll go into that in a little more detail in a few minutes. But the point is that it makes no sense to us, but we are in a bubble of our own. And I do my best to make sure that we take perspectives and consider perspectives that are beyond this bubble. But the fact of the matter is that most people are not entrenched in politics like this, and they get their cues from the news media, which is exactly why, as I said, the most powerful thing that you can get out of Iowa is not just the win, but the narrative of the win. Listen to this clip. Now, Bernie Sanders yesterday came out and he claimed victory, right? As he should. I think it was proper for him to wait a couple of days. I think it may have been, Mayor Pete seized on it like a scumbag does, right? He seized on the opportunity of Bernie Sanders being proper and noble and honorable, and he seized on it in a slimeball rat kind of way, right? But okay, fine. But listen to this clip of MSNBC responding to Bernie Sanders finally coming out and saying, hey, guys, I won because I have more votes. And even if we're in a tie, then the deciding factor, the flip of the coin, should not be a literal coin. The flip of the coin should be the fact that I have 6,000 more votes than Mayor Pete Buttigieg in an extremely tight race. Listen to MSNBC's response to him properly waiting 3 days to give the state party enough time to do whatever the hell they were going to do, and then properly declaring his victory because in a tie, why wouldn't? Why in a state delegate equivalent tie? Why would not the 6,000 extra votes that he got above everyone else, above Pete Buttigieg, be the? Why would it not be the determining factor? Take a listen into their response.
And when 6,000 more people come out for you in an election than your nearest opponent, we here in northern New England call that a victory.
I can't find that. Who called it? It's not on my. Didn't he tie with Mayor Pete, like the 37-year-old, not even anymore mayor?
Well, and you know what's sad? Not to tar him with the same brush, but I mean, how he's disingenuous, to say the least.
Mayor
He's
Pete.
not telling the truth.
Mayor Pete, right?
The problem with Iowa was, and everything we've learned about elections since 2000 is, what do you want to do? Simplify, simplify, simplify. What did the Iowa do in the caucuses? They made it more complex. They had 3 different metrics. So what Bernie is doing is counting that first metric of people who came in that night willing to support Bernie, but many of whom switched to Mayor Pete. Mayor Pete, my heart goes out to him because having covered many Iowa caucuses and looked for that headline at 11 o'clock or midnight, he would have gotten these incredible headlines, the same headlines that Barack Obama had in 2008, and he missed them. So in a way, Bernie got a break because people don't see him as the loser. In a way, Biden got a break.
Well, Bernie might have won, but
Wait a minute. Did she just say, well, Bernie might have won in a dismissive tone as if that's not the preeminent thing? Bernie might have won, period. Point blank, period. End of discussion. Bernie won. But the guy in the middle, I think his name is Richard Stingle or whatever, Stingle at Stingle on Twitter. Just in case you want to, have a few words with the guy. He really, this is some Orwellian, if I could use, I know people get tired of making references to Hitler as well as Orwell, but this is some doublespeak and a half. This is doublespeak. He sets it up as though he's talking about the person who actually lost the narrative when it was theirs to have in the first place. And he sets it up as though, when you hear it, you're like, oh, he's talking about Bernie. No, he's talking about Pete Buttigieg. He feels bad for Pete Buttigieg because he didn't get the headlines that he was, quote unquote, supposed to get. And Bernie lucked out because people don't see him as a loser. Burn it down to the ground, folks. This is why I am not trying to be opportunistic here, but this is why you have to support independent media. That's why I need you to become a patron, because we have to combat these lies on a regular basis. The depth of the condescension, the depth of the dishonesty, the depth of the doublespeak is so unbelievable. I actually have to pause and ask, where is Professor Eddie Glaude? I think some people pronounce it as Glaude, but whenever he came on my show, we always just said Glaude. So, but anyway, where is he? I haven't seen him on MSNBC in a minute. And I know I know, if nothing else, even if he's not a Bernie supporter, one thing I do know is that he's going to speak the truth wherever he goes. And maybe that's why they don't have him on MSNBC, on Morning Joe anymore. I need to message him and see what's going on. I haven't seen him on there, but that's because they need people who will forward the narrative. They need people like Joy-Ann Reid. I haven't given her a good, I haven't gone after her in a while because I've been trying to be kumbaya and conciliatory. But Joy-Ann Reid, who in 2016 said this, and shout out to, I want to give credit where credit is due because I didn't find this. One Man Left Army on Twitter, at One Man Lefty Army on Twitter is his handle. He found this. And this is what she said in 2016. She said, quote, Hillary Clinton is neither a caucus thief nor an accidental victor. Winning Iowa, even narrowly, was a legit boost to her campaign. Fast forward to 2020, same month. She said, quote, am I wrong to think that 6,000 votes is not exactly a revolutionary margin either way, so neither of the top two finishers in Iowa got much out of it regardless of the outcome? And wasn't it Team Sanders that I insisted on keeping caucuses okay, this is a bad tweet, but that's fine. I mess up all the time on my tweets. But this is the second part. Let me read it again. And wasn't it Team Sanders that insisted on keeping caucuses after 2016 because he did better in them? Okay, so that's the first part. If I just want to make sure that you see, because I got, the bad tweet kind of messed me up. But in 2016, she declared that Hillary Clinton was the victor. It's not an accident and she wasn't a thief. Because even if it's a narrow win, it's a win and a legit boost to her campaign. 2016, 6,000 voters over the second place candidate, Bernie Sanders, getting 6,000 votes. Now, all of a sudden, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that revolutionary, and nobody should really look at any, there's no real victory out of this. MSNBC has a vested interest in stopping Bernie Sanders, even more so than CNN. I'll play a clip of CNN in a moment after this.
Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and support the Benjamin Dixon Show.
All right. Very special thank you to Philip Lee. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. Norm Hart, thank you for becoming a patron. Joanne Gallagher, or Gallant Rider. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. Hey, Viv. Very special welcome to Viv. Thank you for becoming a patron. Orlando Alvalero. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. Very special thank you to Darren. I'm just going to say Darren G. I think I could try this. Garcelis. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. Now, the next three patrons, let's turn the music down a little. Okay. All right. So the next three patrons all came in overnight at the same time, like within minutes of each other. And I wonder, and they all came in for the same amount. I wonder if they are, friends and they decided to come and support me together. Regardless, very special thank you to In Nishimura. Ian, thank you so much for becoming a patron. Julian Ross, thank you for becoming a patron. And Andrew Burmeyer, thank you for becoming a patron. Andrew, I hope I didn't massacre your last name. I think that's part of the experience, right? I think part of the experience of the patron party is hearing me try to say people's names and kind of mess them up. I guess that's part of the enjoyment. I don't know if the three of you came in together, but hey, thank you so much because it was like 1 minute after the other. Thank you so much for your support. And it gave me a wonderful idea. We need bundlers. You know how campaigns have people who bundle donations. We need bundlers. So here's the thing. I don't think I can actually ask you all for more because you're doing so much and I am grateful for it. And we are performing like I said, I think we have about 15% now. I didn't realize so many more. There's so many new people listening to the show. I hadn't looked at the statistics in a while. And so we've basically doubled our listenership, which is amazing. But even with doubling our listenership, we're still at about 15% conversion rate of listeners to patrons. And when I tell you, most people have a 1% conversion rate. 1% of most people's audiences become paying members and patrons. Here at the Benjamin Dixon Show, we have 15%. So I can't really ask for more, but I have to ask for more. And so I think a good idea is everyone reach one. You know how we do in, well, maybe you don't know, but this is how we do in church. Everyone reach one, right? Find a friend. Ask a friend to become a patron. Yeah, that's it. I'm not going to really pound that horse. I think it's called beat a dead horse. Wow. Next segment. Okay. So as I was finishing off before the patron party, the tweet from Joyanne Reid and the clip from MSNBC, I mean, it really shows how MSNBC, they're the worst. They are the worst right now. And it's just bad. I want to compare this clip from CNN where you're not going to hear, this is just one person on the panel of CNN. On CNN, you are going to hear some other takes that are bad. Bad with regard to Bernie. It's all, it's all relative. It's all not relative. It's all subjective, right? To some people, hearing bad takes about Bernie is the best kind of news that you can get. But at least on this panel on CNN with Don Lemon, the woman who spoke here, at least she was afforded an opportunity to actually say something that to the rest of us seems like common sense. Listen.
And I understand that strategically that what Mayor Pete did was probably the right thing to do, but I found it slightly sleazy. I mean, because he didn't win and he didn't know that he won, and he went out and said something. In the end, he actually may not win, and so I don't actually think that I don't know. It doesn't endear.
It bothered you. You think it bothered you? The speech?
Yeah, because you don't know that. I mean, and in the end, it might not even be true.
Exactly. Maybe you don't like her using the word sleazy with regard to Mayor Pete. But I think that was pretty much the most accurate description of him. Now, if you're looking for fair and balanced coverage, you're not going to get it here. I mean, clearly, I am a progressive, pretty far left. I'm as far left as you can go without actually declaring a revolution. I'm not looking to have our institutions burned to the ground, right? I just say that because if you're looking for someone to try to present the appearance of being fair and balanced, that's not what that's what media has done for years at the expense of actual progressive thought and ideology. For years, the media has been trying to present itself as giving both sides when neither of the sides that they present represent anything that's progressive or to the left. In other words, they'll have a Republican and they'll have a Democrat, but they'll make sure that that Democrat is so far to the center right that they will shun, that they collectively, the host, the Republican guest, and the Democratic guest can collectively dismiss progressivism. Right? And so it's refreshing to find someone, even though this individual probably would not consider themselves a progressive, at least in this moment, something came out that was truthful from a progressive perspective. And that is that Mayor Pete is a sleazy, slimy scumbag who took the opportunity to declare himself victorious when he in fact was not. I know I took the long way around to say that, but I think the context would actually help you understand what we're fighting against in the media. We're constantly fighting against the presentation or how they present themselves to be fair, how they present themselves to be saying that, we have to give both sides a chance to speak, when in reality, they're not giving both sides a chance to speak. They're giving both sides of the same coin the chance to speak. They're giving Republicans the room to say anything they want to support Donald Trump no matter who the Republican president is, they will allow Republicans to get on there and outright lie. I mean, they will go so far as to let Republicans get on there and to deny climate change, despite the fact, the evidence that it exists from 98% of scientists. So they will go so far as letting all the full range of right-wing propaganda exist on their air. And then the Democrat that they're going to put on there is going to be someone who's going to be trying to triangulate for, civility. And this is part of how we got where we are. So it's refreshing to see someone in the moment of honesty. I doubt they let this woman on again because of her honesty. But honestly, at this juncture, the Democratic Party is starting to throw all their weight behind Mayor Pete. Now, let me tell you something. Here's what I do know. Mayor Pete will not win under any circumstances. He's going to get devastated in the South, right? So even if he pulls out a win in New Hampshire, which is going to change the narrative even more, right? We cannot afford to let him win in New Hampshire, but if he does, it's going to be stopped in the South. And a lot of people are trying to say, it's going to be stopped in the South because black people are homophobic. Well, you saw the video from Iowa, right? There's a video floating around from a caucus in Iowa where there was a homophobic individual who literally changed her vote from supporting Mayor Pete, I think, to Amy Klobuchar. I forgot who she went to, but she did it specifically because she disagreed with his lifestyle according to the Bible. And that woman was white. Okay, so all this homophobia that they're going to try to preemptively blame on the South as the reason why Pete Buttigieg can't win the South. In reality, black folks just don't fuck with Mayor Pete because we know we know intuitively, we know at a glance when you're dealing with a rat. That's why we don't mess with Mayor Pete, and Mayor Pete don't mess with us. We don't, come on. He's going to get devastated in the South. But here's the point of what I wanted to say. Ultimately, the Democratic Party is so committed to stopping the left-wing branch of their party from gaining power that they would rather lose with Mayor Pete than to win with Bernie Sanders. Because Mayor Pete, let's say he gets all the way to the nomination, he will lose. And you know why he will lose? Because he's not going to motivate anyone to get out of their bed to go vote. I don't even have to actively oppose him, which I will. You're probably going to stop listening to my show, and that's probably going to be the point where I lose a lot of patrons, because if Mayor Pete becomes the nominee, I honestly, it's just, listen, again, like I said yesterday, I have lost so much. This is not hyperbole. If I told you how much I lost, I would lose some more because I'm contractually. Anyway, I can't say why. I've lost so much based on my integrity. Why on earth would I put my integrity aside to help someone who has none? I can't bring myself to help somebody. I could bring myself to help Joe Biden because at least he's honest about his dishonesty. At least he's honest about what he doesn't want to do. And he's funny, right? I could at least, because he's not, there's something uniquely different about the centrism of Joe Biden and the centrism of Pete Buttigieg. I'm sorry. I will put on a t-shirt and I will go canvas for Joe Biden to help him win. I'll even help Amy Klobuchar win. I most certainly will put on an Elizabeth Warren t-shirt and help her win. And as sure as, I'm working overtime to help Bernie win. But the person that I will not lift a finger to help, in fact, the person that I will actively work against is the person in this race who has the least amount of integrity. Best demonstrated by the fact that he claimed victory on Monday when he had no evidence to suggest that he was victorious. And because the media machine is surrounding him and amplifying these lies. And because the Democratic Party has demonstrated that they would rather lose with Mayor Pete than to win with Bernie Sanders. And you know what? If he gets the nomination, I'm willing to help them lose. Because to the Democratic establishment, all they want is to maintain their tax breaks, just like any Republican. You could be sure of that. All right, I'm going to shift gears. I've got a couple of the stories to talk about before the end of the regular show, and we go into the Patron show. So yeah, let's do that. All right, we'll be back right after this. All right. So this new story from Politico on Elizabeth Warren's campaign. Now, listen, I am going to be inordinately fair here. More than I probably should, considering I am still deeply troubled by what Elizabeth Warren attempted to do to Bernie Sanders. I am. However, it's just my weakness. It's just my weakness. So I'm going to be fair to Elizabeth Warren and not do to her what I know they would do to Sanders if this story came out from Sanders. I will leave this. Okay, let me give the headline and then I'll give you all the other stuff, right? So you can understand what the hell I'm talking about. The headline from Politico: Women of color bolt Warren's Nevada campaign in frustration. Complaints, comments, advice, and grievances were met with an earnest shake of the head and progressive buzzwords, but not much else. Now, without a shadow of a doubt, if this was about Bernie Sanders, then the same people that I'm going to be kind to would, in fact, try to destroy Bernie Sanders because of this story. I'm not going to return fire with fire because there are going to be so many people on Twitter who will do that for me. I don't have to do it. I am going to be magnanimous. I am going to be above the fray for many reasons. One of the reasons is because the story speaks for itself. A half dozen women of color have departed Elizabeth Warren's Nevada campaign in the run-up to the state caucuses with complaints of a toxic work environment in which minorities felt tokenized and senior leadership was at loggerheads. The 6 staffers left the roughly 70-person Nevada team since November during a critical stretch of the race. 3 of them said they felt marginalized by the campaign, a situation they said didn't change or worsened after they took their concerns to their superiors or to human resources staff. Here's a quote within the story. During the time I was employed with Nevada for Warren, there was definitely something wrong with the culture, said Megan Lewis, a field organizer who joined the campaign in May and departed in December. I filed a complaint with HR, but the follow-up I received left me feeling as though I needed to make myself smaller or change who I was to fit into the office culture. Another recently departed staffer, also a field organizer, granted anonymity because she feared reprisal, echoed that sentiment. I felt like a problem. Like I was there to literally bring color into the space, but not the knowledge and voices that come with it, she said in an interview. She added, we all were routinely silenced and not giving a meaningful chance on the campaign. Complaints, comments, advice, and grievances were met with an earnest shake of the head and progressive buzzwords, but not much else. A third former field organizer who was also granted anonymity said those descriptions matched her own experience. Okay. There's enough. There's a whole lot more to go in there. But let me say this. Here's one of the other reasons I'm going to be fair in this is because I've heard the same stories from the 2016 Bernie campaign. Same exact stories. That's all I'm going to say about that. I don't know what the culture is now on the Bernie Sanders campaign, but I can tell you one thing. They're doing things differently, particularly in South Carolina, and they're listening to the black organizers there on the ground, right? But I'm also going to be fair to Elizabeth Warren because it's very difficult when you have a national campaign, you have a national organization. And listen, you guys can yell at the computer. I know you're like, Ben, tear her apart. She deserves it. She earned it. You have no reason to be kind to Elizabeth Warren. Well, I kind of do. And it's because we need her voters, and we need her voters sooner rather than later. So if these people are defecting from Elizabeth Warren, the way we get them is not by rubbing it in their face that we believe that they have been wrong about Elizabeth Warren all this time, but saying we understand, right? We understand. And I do understand that in a lot of white environments, no matter, honestly, to my burning bros, solidarity, I'm with you, but come on, we do understand that this is not this is not germane just to Elizabeth Warren. This is something that white people, you have to actively work against. And what you oftentimes get in professional, quote unquote, professional environments, you get the suppression and the tokenization of black people, right? You get the tokenization because they need you there, but they don't really want your opinion. They just want your face there. And I have found that in every single white circle that I have ever been in, period, point blank. I'm so tired of saying that phrase, but A client of mine uses it so much it's now in my head. Oh, God, I got to get that out of my head. But the ultimate point of this is there is a problem of white supremacy. Well, not white supremacy, but there is the construct, the structure of white supremacy still is pervasive even in progressive circles. And it's come back to bite Elizabeth Warren in the ass. And as her campaign begins to falter, I think we as Bernie bros should be like, hey, guys, hey, ladies and gentlemen, non-gender conforming individuals, welcome home. Come on over here. We have problems over here. We do. But one thing we're going to do is actively work against those problems. I want to finish that sentence so bad, but my music is playing. So if you want to hear the rest, go to patreon.com/the BPD show and get the full hour show.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and support the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.